Episode 6, Morale. Act 1, Party Time. Beer bottles clink together as music plays loudly and dozens of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents walk around the rooftop venue, congregating. Tell me I can't throw a good party, Alfonso says as he sips a beer. Connor chuckles to himself but nods. Just then Daisy walks up, accompanied by a man that isn't exactly dressed for occasion. Connor's puzzled. He's not sure what to expect. But he looks him over, a habit picked up from being on the force. Connor, this is... Daisy begins to say, before suddenly she's interrupted by her companion. Name's Salsa. Daniel Salsa. The man says, extending his hand out for Connor to shake. Connor nods before grabbing his hand and replying with, Great to meet you, I'm Connor Campbell. Daniel smiles before saying, I was wondering about you. I know you Campbells have a certain spirit. Daniel says. Connor nods but shrugs and says that Lincoln had a bit more of it than he does. Daniel nods and silently moves away, fraternizing with the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Connor looks at him from afar, his face seemingly thinking about the interaction. Hey, don't worry about him. He's just testing you out, Daisy asks. Connor looks over at Daisy. I didn't know he was the jealous type, Connor says. Daisy shakes her head. Not like that. He's checking you out in terms of being an agent, Daisy tells Connor, with a chuckle before walking away. Connor is slightly taken aback when he hears this. He turns to Alfonso to ask what she means, but he's gone as well. Connor lets out a breath and goes to socialize by himself. Minutes later, Alfonso stands on a podium holding a microphone. Attention, everyone! Alfonso says into the mic, which makes everyone stop and turn their attention to him. Daisy grins in anticipation of what he's about to say. Connor, come up here! Alfonso says, as Connor nods to him and makes his way up the wooden stairs next to Alfonso. Now everyone knows that soon we'll be stepping into a battle on all fronts, but this time we're going to be having a member of Force 25 and one of NYPD's best joining us, Alfonso says, as a round of applause erupts from the agents that look on at their leader. Connor smiles but thinks to himself, where's he going with this? And because of that, I'd like to officially welcome our newest S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Connor Campbell, Alfonso says, as he smiles widely. The crowd applauds Connor and Connor smiles warmly. Alfonso extends his hand for a handshake and Connor takes it. It's good to have you here, Alfonso says before shifting his eyes over to Daisy in the crowd. Connor follows the gaze and sees her smiling at him. I think it may do her some good too, Alfonso says. After a few minutes, Connor stands at the edge of the roof, looking out at the city. Just then, Daniel walks up to him. Hey, Campbell, Daniel says, holding 2 beers in his hand. Connor turns his head to look at Daniel before accepting the beer that Daniel offers him. So, how does it feel having the title of agent to go along with the rest? Daniel asks as he takes his sip from his bottle. It's a lot, but it feels right, Connor says as he looks out at New York. Daniel chuckles to himself, telling Connor that he knows how he feels, and he explains what it was like for him, coming from his time and cheating death because of it. It's a lot for the mind to deal with, superhuman or not, Daniel says. Connor's taken aback by this. I didn't know that's how things went for you, Connor says. Daniel shrugs before sipping again. I don't talk about it too often, he says. Connor nods and decides to tell him about his story. Before I became a cop, I was working for a less than honorable organization. But then when I fell, I had nowhere to go. I took some money and hopped around. Minnesota, Chicago, Connecticut. Then I ended up here. The police found me, and when they realized that they could use my expertise, they deputized me, Connor tells him. Eventually, I made it to head of SWAT, Connor says. Daniel smiles at this. Nice work, Campbell, he says. Connor nods and finally takes a sip from his beer. Act 2, Hidden Alliance. Any units available, we have a report of activity at an abandoned warehouse, Chief Audrey says into the police radio. The Northeast soldier hears this as he flies to Manhattan. 10-4, show me responding, he says. The onboard GPS appears on his visor as it marks the location, and he activates the thrusters on his back to get to the scene faster. Thrusters activated, the Northeast soldier hears the voice of Carol Denver say as he zooms off toward the warehouse. On the edge of Brooklyn, an old warehouse sits quietly. The Northeast soldier knows the place, and he remembers Lance telling him that he used to practice there when he first became the Metal Spider. I need to do this quietly somehow, the Northeast soldier says to himself as he arrives to the warehouse. This suit has a stealth mode, AI Carol tells the War Machine-like hero. Connor's mildly surprised, but then reminds himself that it is S.H.I.E.L.D. tech. Activate it, the Northeast soldier says as the jets gradually go quieter and the black paint of the suit takes on a matte look. On the visor appears the words, Stealth Mode activated. Audrey, I'm at the warehouse, Connor says. Okay, find a way in quietly, Audrey tells him. After a few minutes, Connor makes his way into the warehouse, his S.H.I.E.L.D. designated auto rifle being aimed around as his suit scans his surroundings. Connor takes cover behind a group of crates as he watches the conversation go down from afar. Connor's eyes shift around as he listens quietly, counting the amount of crates that he can see. 21, 22, 23, 24, he says, but suddenly he stops when he notices the logo on one of them. Carol, enhanced visor clarity, Connor tells the AI, and he realizes that the logo is unfortunately just what he thought. Audrey, we have AIM present at the warehouse, Connor quietly says. Ah, well, say what you mean, Miss Rappaccini. NYPD, defender of S.H.I.E.L.D. What are we worried about? You're not one to shrink or waver, I know that. Killian died in December of 2013, and you slipped right into his position in January of 2014. So trust me, we're all proactive enough to stop the New York police before they even try. P. Clary says to Monica Rappaccini, it's not about proactiveness. It's about the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. has a Northeast soldier working with them now. If you thought this was all going to be easy, well then... I just don't know what to say about all that, Monica says. Connor hears all of this. Carol sent a message to Alfonso that Killian died in 2013, not 2012, and asked him why he thought it was 12, Connor says, before slowly peeking over his crate to try and scope out what's happening. Carol, start recording, Connor says as he sees AIM guards, forklifts, and DODC moving crates back and forth from trucks. Most have the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo seemingly covered up. Connor knows this is an exchange of goods, but suddenly he sees something that he cannot believe. In a large case lays the original Northeast soldier armor, but different. The original paint of the suit has been stripped away, and Connor can tell that the red and blue lights have been removed, and as for the letters that once spelled NYPD, they no longer exist. Replaced with letters that spelled DODC. It all makes sense to Connor. The DODC wanted his suit to use against civilians while they roll out the robots in New York. Audrey, they have my old armor, Connor says. Audrey is stunned to hear this and tells Connor that he's clear to apprehend the suspects. Yes, ma'am, Connor said. But before he does anything else, he hangs up and the suit's AI picks up someone else in his vicinity. And a few feet away, Connor can see Daisy sneaking into the warehouse. Moving over to her, he retracts the helmet and whisper yells her name. Daisy, what are you doing here? Connor asks. Daisy mentions that Alfonso had seen meeting dates and locations in the files that they looked through the day before, and that she was there to neutralize the enemies and reclaim their tech. Connor nods. Looks like we're here for similar reasons. I got a call on activity in this warehouse, and I was just told that I'm clear to move in. Connor tells her, Great, we can help each other. Here's the plan. I'll quake the guards and get them out of the way. You need to find that armor and get it back, she says. The Northeast soldier nods and activates the helmet as Quake leaves her cover, and lifts her hand up in front of her. With a strong shockwave, AIM and DODC guards fly out of the way. Some become knocked out by the blast. Others try to rise to their feet, but then are put back down as the Northeast soldier fires tranquilizer shots at them. The plan of attack is going well. However, Connor suddenly hears his old armor powering up. Daisy! Connor yells as he sees the DODC armor fly out of the skylight in the warehouse roof. Connor readies his jets and tells Daisy to get the cops there now, before taking flight after the suit.